We also, in the Bragg office, we grabbed Zach Covington a few years ago from the bioregional planning program in the College of Natural Resources. And Zach, as a graduate student, helped us produce a planning document for the Bear Lake Valley where we assessed a lot of the different resources that were available to the communities here, and Zach came up with a number of different approaches to address regional needs. We have a copy of that on our website too. I'd encourage you to take a look at it if you already haven't. Most of the communities here around the lake should have a bound hard copy, a paper copy in your library somewhere, and if you don't, give us a call. But you know, and this planning has been going on for several years, but like Evan said earlier, you know, it really ought to start, at least in my experience, it ought to start from the ground up. Utah and Idaho and western states in particular have a very strong tradition of property rights and of you know, ground up involvement in government, and not the top-down regulatory structure popular in some other parts of the country. But you know, we really, but that means that we each have a greater responsibility as individuals to get that perspective, to think that big picture. Like Evan said, we need to think not just about how our property fits into the mix, but we need to think about how our neighbors and how our community as a whole deal with development issues and transportation issues and natural resource issues, because we are all dependent on the same systems, and each individual's actions have an effect on the rest of the system to some degree. Now, this requires also a lot of political will to make the decision on a local level. Right about the same time that the associations of government in Utah were established in the early 1970s, there was an initiative, or it was, excuse me, it wasn't an initiative, but there was some legislative action that would have given these regional bodies regulatory authority over certain land use planning processes. Now, the Sagebrush Rebellion in the 70s caught a hold of that and completely kicked it to the curb. It was the first time in the state of Utah that legislative law was overturned by public initiative. They sent it to a general election, and it lost by a landslide. You know, the people of Utah do not want top-down regulatory regional planning. But that just means that we need to think of how can we work together as neighbors and as communities to accomplish the common goals that we all have. So this requires a lot of public involvement. It requires that we come up with a lot of different options, and then we have to have a good communication structure so that we can work together. You know, Evan had his great little 7-step process. That's the way we need to work at addressing these things. We've got to talk about it, we've got to look at our options, and then we've got to act on it. Did I skip one? I did. Oops. How did you go back? You went back, Evan. I saw you. I'll just do it the old-fashioned way. There we go. Okay. So to help the communities, Bragg offers some services. We provide technical assistance in terms of training elected officials. You know, I always love to go into a meeting and say, I'm not a lawyer, but, and provide lots of advice. But you know, we can help train elected officials on what state law says you can and can't do, what the appropriate method of dealing with the public is on certain issues, and you know, of course, we don't mind coming up to Fish Haven or up to Paris or something. We'll come to Montpelier too. I don't have any problems with that. We do, kind of like Evan said, you know, our experience lies on the Utah side of things, but you know, we're really interested in making sure that we understand how the Idaho side legally works too. There's, you know, it's important that we be able to speak the same language, and you know, because these issues cross the boundaries, and so we need to be able to communicate across the boundaries too. We can help a little bit in public outreach and communication. We have a grand, wonderful staff of 2.5. It's myself, Zach, and then we have a part-time paid intern who's been helping us out. Landon's great, but we're a little limited in what we can do. But we're certainly willing to come out and help where we can. We have some technical services in terms of mapping. We have a lot of data available in our office. We know how to get a hold of the states of Idaho and Utah and steal a lot of the stuff that they create. We don't steal, it's public domain, it's great stuff. They put a lot of information out there, and we can help you assimilate and take what you need to get the information that you want. We have good examples of model ordinances. When it comes right down to it, when you've got a great idea, you've got to implement it through an ordinance somehow. We can help you find one that is appropriate to the scale of your community. If you have an airport, we're not going to copy the Salt Lake International Airport ordinances and put that in your community. We're going to help you find something that's scaled a little more to your size, and then work with the public process to make sure that this really fits your community's needs and the desires of the residents. We can also help facilitate with communication and coordination, and then we can also help to a certain degree address funding needs. We work with a number of state and federal agencies to deliver funding resources to the communities. One of them that we work with is the Utah Community Impact Board. This one, I have a really hard time pushing this one across the state line, but we'll do what we can. They do provide planning grants to communities in the state of Utah. It does, however, require a 50% cash match. So if you want $10,000 to do a rewrite, to hire a consultant to do a rewrite of your general plan, and then if you're asking the Community Impact Board for $10,000, they're going to ask that you put up a matching $10,000 to the project. Now, we do also participate with the Community Development Block Grant Program, which is through the Housing and Urban Development Office. However, this one is targeted towards communities with certain income. So we have to demonstrate that your community matches those program criteria, but we're willing to work through that with you and get you the information that you need to know about that. We also work with state and federal departments of transportation. We work with the EPA, with HUD, and the Economic Development Administration. So all of these different offices have certain little programs that we can sometimes find a little bit of money or a little bit of programmatic support to help meet your needs. And then finally, there are private sources. Please don't discount the businesses in your community. There are private foundations that can be tapped. So these are good ways to keep the money local and keep the interest locally very high. So if you have any questions, I didn't put any contact information on the slides, but I have a big pocket full of business cards. So if you need any help, please contact myself or Zach Covington in the office, and we're happy to help any way that we can.
What is the website?
Okay, our office website is brag.utah.gov, brag.utah.gov. BRAG, brag.utah, spelled out UTAH.gov. And we have a lot of stuff there on our front page that I showed you the shot of earlier, and then we also have a few other documents a little further down in our community development department. So, any other questions? Well, thank you very much.